And when we're not hustling, we believe that seeing sex workers as full people outside of our work is an essential step toward humanizing and destigmatizing the industry and those who work within it. Help us to bring you the stories of the people behind the fantasies. When We're Not Hustling is a 501c3 fiscally sponsored nonprofit project of the Social Good Fund. Thank you for considering a tax-deductible recurring contribution. All contributions will be received through our fiscal sponsor, the Social Good Fund. You can contribute at nothustling.com.
Put away the lingerie. I wanna know you. Tell me more. I don't care about the hear about you and see the world from your point of view. The coffee's already made, so I'll part the shades, just pull up a chair and tell me more.
Welcome to When We're Not Hustling, a podcast where sex workers talk about everything but. I'm your host, Jessie Sage. When We're Not Hustling is a weekly podcast that explores the lives and identities of sex workers outside of our work personas, our personal philosophies, ambitions, families, relationships, passions, spirituality, and so much more. We talk about our lives beyond the job, asking, what does the flexibility of sex work allow us to do, and who does it allow us to be? On our show, we learn who sex workers are outside of the work we're known for. When We're Not Hustling is an exploration of the people behind the fantasies. When We're Not Hustling is brought to you by Assembly 4. Assembly 4 is a collective of sex workers and technologists working to bring the overall cost of sex work down through their advertising platform Tryst.link. They also educate clients through the Good Client Guide and provide resources and articles written by and for sex workers. Assembly 4 caters to all genders and demographics and raises funds to fight for sex worker rights and against exploitation in the industry. Learn more about Assembly 4 at assemblyfour.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of When We're Not Hustling. I'm your producer, Emily Foster, filling in for Jessie Sage. Jessie is currently working on her contribution to I Hate My Job, a new compilation of essays from current and former sex workers exploring the intersections of labor, sex work, and capitalism. This incredible new compilation is the newest work from Working Girls Press and has been fully funded through the Kickstarter that just finished this January. It'll be released this November, so look forward to that and some exciting new book launch events. Jessie is also working on her own book, as well as a TEDx talk that's coming up soon, and we'll share more about those projects as they get closer. As always, Jessie is hustling even when she's not hustling. This week's interview is with Savannah, a full-service sex worker in the UK who has written a self-care guide for sex workers. She is also an incredible artist with paintings that evoke a sense of sweetness and safety, at least for me. Jessie and Savannah discuss how her art helps her find a sense of home and place as an immigrant 6 times over. Their conversation covers how to care for oneself in an industry without HR or oversight, how to create a sense of home when one has to move often, and how artistic expression is an essential part of both of their lives. By way of introduction, Savannah is an Indian webcam model, 6-time immigrant, and contemporary artist based in London, UK. In 2022, she published the Self-Care for Sex Workers Journal, which centers the lives, well-being, and spirits of sex workers as deserving and vital. Born from her understanding of self-care and community as reclamation from a stigma-induced survival mode existence, the journal offers a holistic guide to well-being through an eye-opening, step-by-step guidance around nutrition, finance, rest, pleasure, and diversifying in business and life aspirations. Rooted in doing less and letting go, and creating expansion through rest and replenishment, the prompts provide release from the hustle and grind aspects of our labor to move from surviving to thriving, from burnout to balance. She also holds creative space for sex workers and allies to explore art as a language of place and belonging with her monthly online holding spaces on Substack. Her new book, Salute the Light Within You, is out November 15th. It is a memoir exploring her experience of domestic violence and finding her true self in recovery from addiction. It is accompanied by 25 oracle cards illustrated by Savannah and includes journaling, drawing, and breathwork prompts for readers to journey alongside her in collective respite. All annual founding members and subscriptions to the Substack act as a pre-order and will receive a complimentary copy in November, plus Savannah's eternal gratitude. And with that, let's get right to the interview.
All right. Hi, Savannah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Jessie. No, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Yeah. Where are you right now? Are you in the UK right now?
Yes, I'm in London. It is evening and pitch black outside. I'm freezing.
I was going to say it's night now, huh?
It is nighttime.
I'm in Pittsburgh and it is the middle of the afternoon, but it is snowing so much here.
Oh, beautiful. I would love that. We don't get sticks here, so it just turns.
Yeah, you guys don't get much snow, do you?
We don't.
Yeah. You get rain though.
We do. So much rain.
I like rainstorms. If I don't have to be out and about, if I can sit at my house.
If you're inside, they're lovely. But if you're stuck in the middle of London trying to get home, it's raining. No, not good.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself and your background.
So I'm Savannah. I am a former full-service sex worker. And now I currently work as a webcam model. I stream on StreamMate. I was on MFC for quite a while, and then I switched to StreamMate. So I started in full service sex work in 2005, and and then I was doing that for probably about 4 years or so, 4 or 5 years. And then I took a break. I worked in education with kids. I supported children who had special needs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then I found that my passion was art, making artwork. And I went to study that and then did an undergraduate, then did a master's and returned to sex work, i.e. webcamming, because I needed to pay for said masters, and it the way for me to do it. So, and then I realized after finishing my MA that webcamming really supported my art practice because I can work whenever I want. So I stream a total of about 12 hours a week, and for the time I'm painting, drawing, or watching Netflix or scrolling Instagram
while you're camming.
Yeah, while I'm camming. I try not to have my phone on me because my viewers are like, "Oh, are we boring you?" or something. No, they never do. I try to be present with them. So yeah,
you're like, yes, you are actually.
Yeah, you're so boring. Shut up. Get out of here.
You have the opposite trajectory as me because I started in camming and now I do full service, and I like full service better. But I'm not much of a performer, and so I found it hard to be on cam with people like. I've also worked on StreamMate. I like that model a little bit better, but I started in Chatterbait, and it was just I like StreamMate better because I liked the one-on-one, privates there, except I didn't like it because they take so much of your money.
It's robbery. It's awful. StreamMate, if you're listening, sort it out.
Yeah. When I was doing it, I don't know how it is now, but it was 70% or something.
Yeah, I get 35 cents from $1, and that's 20 pence or something ridiculous. So
it's so bad.
I do nothing. I just sit there and I'm like, let's wait for it to go to 10 minutes, and then I might think about flicking my hair.
But I find that I like full service better, but I know that, there's lots of different ways of doing the work. So, for different personalities. So yeah. Do you ever do art while you're camming?
I
Do people ever watch
don't.
you do that?
I don't, because my viewers would not want that. So, so my cam persona is like this slutty, total slut, cock hungry MILF. That is my theme, and I do a lot of taboo.
Okay.
A lot of quite like far out there taboo. So I think, and that's what my viewers come for.
Okay.
No pun intended, but yeah, for me to sit there painting, I would find them irritating. I would find them like distracting to me. So yeah.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about your art. I really like your art. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. What made you get into art, and especially the style that you do? Can you describe that and talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. So I'll go backwards. So the style that I do, so I need a sec to think about why I got into art. The style that I do. So I'm currently working in 3 different ways. So I'm painting landscapes, which I feel are quite like energetic, dreamy scapes. And they have to do with me finding place and a sense of safety and belonging. I'm an immigrant like 6 times over, I've calculated. So home, place, safety, and belonging are very integral to me as a person and navigating that. So, and my landscapes are very color sensitive, and that color, I use a lot of like dreamy hues, pale pinks, and oranges, and but I'm moving away from that now, I think. And so, yes, they very much have to do with like the energy of me finding belonging. And then the second way I work is with self-portraits. I last year I got very into, for want of a better word, divination and listening to my intuition. And I guess, I'm speaking to you, and as sex workers, we rely on our intuition a lot. And for me, I was really coming to a place of learning to trust my gut and to be with people. And I think as a stigmatized, marginalized, blah, 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 all the lies, being, that is really important. And I feel that you kind of understand that without me having to explain that too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah. And then as a sex worker, I draw myself nude, and in a very kind of like, in kind of these very like traditional Hindu kind of goddess poses. I'm not Hindu, so I need to like be careful of that. And I think as a sex worker, that's really important. I really wanted to do that. And the most important people that I want to see my artwork and connect with it, if they choose to, are other sex workers. So I make those portraits of me for other sex workers as a kind of way of connecting. Yeah.
It's interesting because I'm listening to you talk and I'm thinking about like what the landscapes and the portraits like have in common. And it seems like what I hear you saying is, as an immigrant many times over, like looking for home, and is like almost drawing it in that way or painting it in the way that you painted is like bringing like home and a sense of place into being. And the same thing is happening like with your body through your like sex work. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. And I think it's like the antidote to that absolute horrible trauma of erasure that I have experienced as a person, but definitely as a sex worker. Like, we'll consume you, but you're just not important. It's like, well, what about the rest of me? What about my humanity? And I feel I talk about divination and energy and abstract terms of like belonging and stuff, but there's so much humanity there. It's such a big need. So yeah.
I mean, I think that most sex workers experience this and learn to live in a world like under an intense amount of stigma and marginalization. But I think what you're saying about like erasure, also, I think about it as that, but also as like a kind of flattening where like you don't exist outside of this like idea of sex worker, of horror that people are like projecting onto you. And that is like, I think it's really interesting to think about like art. And like in my case, like I'm a writer, like writing or, however it is that you go about trying to like fill out like the representation of like who we are.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've just started writing too. And absolutely, it's like, I don't feel that, even though, it's 2025, I don't feel like sex workers are very often taken out of our roles. And,
right.
I think acknowledging our humanity as people and very sexy people, and the amount of care and acknowledgement that we is really required towards ourselves and due towards ourselves is really important. Really important.
Yeah, and I want to go into that because you talk a lot about self-care and another avenue of your work that you do, but I want to go backward a little bit, and I want to get to that, but I want to go backward a little bit because I'm somebody who's not an immigrant. I am a U.S. citizen, and I was born in the U.S. But the U.S. is a very big place, and I spent my entire growing up moving. I think I went to 17 schools before I graduated from high school. And not for any reason that made sense to me. My parents were just very nomadic, and we went, and unstable. And so we would go from one place to another. And that to me, like, very much shaped who I am in ways that I'm like still trying to make sense of, so I was wondering I'm wondering how, you kind of hinted at this of like, it's hard to have a sense of place when you like uproot and immigrate or move to a different place. What kind of impact do you think that's had like on you and your art? And also like, can you say more about like place and why that's become important to you?
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like the amount of times I've immigrated, a lot was to do with survival and coming, or like having to be in that survival mode of just needing to meet those really basic needs. Was really, really got me down to the bare bones of as a human and a person. It really made me aware of my physiology. And I because I was born in Saudi Arabia. I'm Indian. I don't remember it that much, but then I lived in the US for about 6 months. And I'm talking about when I was like 5. And then I moved to Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, where I grew up. From there, it was Northern Ireland, then Scotland, then eventually London. So they're very geographically close to each other, but very, very different politically, culturally. And I feel like I bring all of that into my art. And my art is a way of processing, untangling, unenmeshing myself from this survival mode. And it really has to do with my sensitivity and finally having a place to acknowledge what that being in survival mode for so long was like for me. And the erasure that did for me, to me. And I feel like my art is a really, really safe place for me. It's like where I can speak to my experience and kind of bring it out. So
do you feel like it's hard to, this is something that I've thought a lot about. Do you think that was it hard for you to recognize when you weren't in survival mode anymore?
Yes. Yeah. And I am 39, and just towards I think it was last year, I realized how hard it is for me to trust that I don't need to be in survival mode.
Yeah.
And, it could be like, I guess I could say I'm I have a home here in London. Like, this is my home, and it's very suburban. I've got a garden. I'm very rooted here financially, emotionally, practically. But this constant like survival mode it really ruins my enjoyment of my peace, of my here now, which I would like to say is a privilege, that my here and now feels secure. But I feel like as a sex worker, and I guess, we're hustling, we're always, it's always like, what's going to happen, blah, 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 or even like the street mate cuts out in the middle when I, even on a busy day. And so it's like, I work hard for my security, but I want to acknowledge that I can trust that I'm okay now.
Yeah.
And that's very hard to do.
It's hard for me to do too. And I realize even when things started to get better and I had more stability, and I also own a home and have a lot of privilege. And it's interesting to be in this like position of like having that, but not being able to trust it, and like having this part of you that remembers what it feels like to not have that, and to be like afraid that at any moment it could like just zap out of existence or something, which isn't actually how things work. But I think when you grow up with like instability or in survival mode, that it's really hard not to carry that into different situations.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And I feel like the materialization of survival mode is money. And it's played out quite a lot in money and finances. And then money and finances, the stigma around that and sex work is just horrifying. It's like, I feel like I don't feel sex work as a trap. I feel like that stigma that perpetuates the survival mode is the trap around sex work. And I feel like, so there are practical elements of me not being able to fully accept that I'm safe and secure, and legal elements. But I feel like, as you were saying, like that isn't overnight, it's a process. So that's not happening right this second. So I think, thank you for that. I can really acknowledge, just for today, just for now, I am safe and secure and I'm okay now.
I totally understand that, though, why that's hard. And I think it's taken me a process. I'm turning 47 in March, and I feel like it's only been in the last couple of years that I'm like, and I still struggle with this sometimes, where I'm like, you know what, actually, I think it's okay. I think I'll be okay. Because for so long I felt this sort of fear of like, there was a long period of time in which I didn't feel like I was making it. And then a period of time that like I was, but I couldn't acknowledge that. I just thought like, I almost felt like every single day that I was okay, it was like luck that I would like explain away of like, well, it's fine right now, but it's only because this one exceptional thing happened, and tomorrow it's going to all fall apart again. But then I realized there was like a series of exceptional things that were like not exceptional at all. It was just that things were finally starting to like come together. But I almost had to, for like self-protection, exceptionalize them, because I couldn't believe that like it was going to be okay.
God, I so resonate with that. And I think a lot of people, even outside sex work, have that. And it's such a strange thing. I feel like there are some elements that perpetuate that anxiety, but I'm wondering, about this concept of okayness and safety, and how really, I guess, we as people can find ways to nurture that and really acknowledge that. It's so important. And I think it's really important to not feel like this kind of sense of imposter, like, this happened, but I had nothing to do with it. It just, it happened by magic, kind of thing.
Like I'm okay today because somebody happened to come into my cam room and drop a few $100s, but like that has nothing to do with me and that won't happen tomorrow. But it does happen, you know, and I was thinking as you were talking that when you said, you know, how that you have to develop that trust, it seems like it's also like a trust in yourself that like you're capable of creating like the conditions that bring you out of survival.
Yes, 100%. Oh my goodness. It's so, when you said capable, it's like, I can say I've done so many things and I've overcome so much, and I'm capable of rest, and I'm capable of acknowledging when I'm tired. I'm capable of getting on with stuff. I'm capable of meeting deadlines, but why I don't feel it, why I would, that is very interesting. So yes, something to, I don't know, just see and maybe work on.
Yeah. Lifelong projects,
Yes,
I think.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the other things that you're doing is a self-care guide for sex workers that includes like a journal and another piece. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I wrote and self-published the Self-Care for Sex Workers journal in 2022. And I've had the page since 21. And I remember during the pandemic, there was a lot of attention towards rest as resistance, rest, especially for marginalized bodies, but no conversation with were sex workers included. And I thought that was really interesting. And I saw a real need for it because I've experienced severe burnout as a sex worker.
Yeah.
It severely impacted my financial well-being and therefore my well-being and safety and security. But I know that happens for a lot of people, but with sex workers, I think the trap doors keep opening, and it's difficult for us to find people to support us and listen.
Yeah.
Without saying, you know, well, it's your fault because you're a sex worker. I got that a lot. So, and it's very insidious. So I wanted to write this based on my own experience, strength and hope, of what it is for me as a sex worker, to acknowledge, firstly, that I have basic needs, and secondly, that I deserve them to be met, and I can utilize my voice to communicate them. I touch on boundaries quite a lot in the book, in the journal, and also what our basic needs are, what our secondary needs are. In my experience, how important rest is, how important our own pleasure is, how important our nourishment is. And there's a lot of that on social media for everybody. But at the time, I didn't see it addressed to me as a sex worker, taking out the work.
The exception I can think of is Lola Davina's work. Have you seen her stuff?
I haven't.
Oh yeah, she also self-published some books different than yours, like, you know, but there is like a workbook companion too, and she talks a lot about like self-care for sex workers. And then she also has like a book that's about finances and overcoming the kind of imposter syndrome and other like things that cause us to not be as like to not feel as financially secure. And I really appreciate the work that she does because it is like addressed from a sex worker to like sex workers. But yeah, I don't think that there's a lot of that. What was the response from like the community when you made it?
It was very, very positive, very positive. And I think for sex workers, it's about acknowledging that on an emotional level that we have the right to acknowledge this stuff for ourselves and to have a community around it. And also money plays a big part in the journal, and acknowledging that our money isn't dirty. We have the right to acknowledge our abundance, and really taking ownership of our money. Because I don't really fully know the situation in the US, but here in the UK, we face a lot of financial stigma from institutions. So I need a bank because otherwise I can't get paid. And even in full service, that was on a cash basis, but I still need a bank to put my money in. So
When We're Not Hustling is powered by Black Venom Digital. Black Venom Digital is a collaboration between myself and industry veteran Mr. Black Venom. Black Venom Digital aims to provide adult professionals and entrepreneurs with professional grade web design, graphic design, and branding services that will inspire growth and success. At Black Venom Digital, we empower companions, creators, and entertainers with professional web design and branding. If you're looking for a new website or any other branding services and you work in the adult industry, please find out more at blackvenomdigital.com. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to your podcast. Doing so will help others find us. And if you're a sex worker who wants to come on the show and talk about your life outside of work, we would love to have you. Please send us an email with more information to nothustlingpod@proton.me. Right. Yeah, it's the same here. And a lot of people, sex workers losing bank accounts, being shut out of payment apps, not being able to process. We struggle with a lot of the same things here. And I think it's really important. And also I find that it's like in sex work that I learned to like be okay saying like, I need money. I need, and to not be afraid to say that, because I feel like in so many, especially for women, I think like in so many sectors of our economy, and I'm biased because I came out of academia, and there it was like, you had to do it for the love of learning, or, like, nobody was supposed to admit that they needed to more than $17,000 a year to live on, and which is just outrageous. But yeah, I think that that the thing is that like sex is taboo and money is taboo, and like our money that we make in sex work is like then so much more like shamed. And to be able to like talk about the money that we need, demand it or ask for it from like our clients and fans, and feel like I like what you said, like that our money isn't dirty, that we're like a part of the economy in the same way that everybody else is a part of the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you were speaking, it was actually my training education in sex work and constantly asking for more and not feeling shame to ask my clients for more and being very boundaried about it, because I have to be, because I think a lot of clients will pay quite happily, but I do get the stingers, I do get the freeloaders, I do get the scammers. So having to be very boundaried about it and not take it personally. It was work that taught me that. And I'm taking all of that relentless, graceful hustle into my art practice, because like academia, art for the love of art, but I have bills to pay and my art needed, and it's a skill, and it took a lot of time to make and a lot went into it. So why shouldn't I be quite open that this is the price on it? So
right. Yeah. I mean, you're right. And I think that art and academia both suffer from that affliction of like not wanting to admit that you want to monetize your labor and your skills and everything else, because that's somehow more lowly, but it's not lowly. I mean, we have to live. Everybody has to live.
Yeah. And there's so much shame in art, for artists to put a price on things or say this is for sale, or going directly to buyers and saying, this is me, we've got to hide behind a gallerist and, hide behind mommy so they can do the work for us. Or like, there's a lot of shame around artists being salesy. And
what do you think the reason for that is?
I don't know. I think it's seen as like, bad form, or like, Artists, we have to look really shabby and be a bit beggary. Otherwise, we're not serious about our art. We're just trying to make money. It's like everybody else is making money. So,
yeah, because there is this like long history of an idea of like a starving artist as being somehow more true or something.
Better.
Yeah. And that but the idea that if you love something, you'll like starve for it doesn't, like, I don't know why we hold that so tightly.
Yeah, neither do I. And it's quite, because I think a lot of artists end up having to give up their art because it felt bad, or maybe didn't feel it's the right thing to do to monetize their art or find monetize their art. It was like, oh, if I make prints of my painting, then I'm selling out. The only true painting is the original. It's like me making prints available actually makes it more accessible to people because it could be more affordable, but they're limited editions, so they're still special, and you still get to support me and have my artwork. So.
Right. Yeah. I think it's interesting. As I was saying, like, if you really love something, you should have to suffer for it. It's interesting. There's an interesting parallel, I think, with sex work clients, where they're very willing to pay until they feel like there's a real connection, especially in full service. And then often they'll be like, well, I feel like what we have is real. So could we just date, And that's so interesting to me because they're like, oh, I feel really connected to you. So therefore, can you do this thing that you're doing now for free? And I always struggle with that, always struggle with this notion that like the idea is, well, if your heart is in it, then you shouldn't get paid for it.
Yeah. What is that? It's like, that is just awful. I swear, I had a full service client who did exactly that. I swear, he just booked me because he wanted me or us to get to a place where he thought I would just see him for free. And it was a bizarre thing. It was like, why are you just going to continue? Do you think that your boss at work expects you to just go into work until the day you'll just show up for free? It's like, how does that logic work? And of course, like, I wouldn't go as far as say I had feelings for my clients or my cam viewers, but I am fond of them. I respect customers, and I value that they're paying me when there are 10,000 other beautiful cam models and full service sex workers.
Sure. Yeah.
But I totally see it. It's like, why on earth? It's like, just because I love to do something doesn't mean that I don't have needs outside of this, and I need to support that, and I'm deserving of the money to support that. So
yeah, and I feel like by and large, it's often feminized labor that is like that. Like we assume that really dedicated male professionals love what they're doing, but should also get paid for it. And I remember before I was a sex worker, I was a doula. And when I was a doula, so interesting because it was even coming from the women who were doing that work. Like there was a rift within the doula community of people who were doulas who thought that they should be paid for their work, which to me, it feels so obvious that they should be paid for it because it's physically taxing. Sometimes you're at the hospital for 20 hours while you're waiting for this, you're on call for weeks at a time, and then there were doulas who were working with us who were like, every woman, every laboring person, I should say, deserves to have somebody there to help them, and not everybody can afford it. Therefore, like, I just don't think I'll ever charge for these services. And there's an extent to which I understand that. And I'm like, but then I'm like, but what are we doing to the workers who are like trying to do that? We're setting up this standard of like, them really harming themselves in order to give these services to other people. And I agree that things should be more accessible for everybody, but I think then we need to restructure the way that pay is done, not stop paying the people who are doing the work.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And that's why I believe in like tier systems. I believe in like subsidized things. I believe in scholarships. Yeah, but I think like for me, I can hark back to going to do my MA. It was a very, very, very wealthy university, and it's attached to the monarch of this country. But no, I still had to pay, and they expected me as a sex worker to come up with this money, and I just did it. So it's like, but then I go somewhere and someone expects me to work for free. It's like, what? And it's like, it's like, as you said, it's like feminized labor, but there's also care. And I feel like as sex workers, it is a position of care. And doula is a huge position of care, but you also have, I feel like there's responsibility there as well. And like you give so much of yourself, and it's like, oh no, can't ask for money. This is for the people. And I feel like I just can't imagine me ever asking someone to work for free.
Right.
But I feel like if someone asked me to do something, it would be a collaboration and something like mutually beneficial. But I just feel like, as you were saying, like care and there's so much expectation around care and giving. And that is feminized. That is feminized.
You're right. That is what it is, because it's like, you want to help the women, right? Yes, you want to help them, but like, what about the women who are doing that work?
Exactly. There's a burnout.
We need help too. We need money and resources.
Yeah. And you would have had to have training to do that. And there's a lot of investment going into that. And
absolutely.
And insurance and things and costs involved in being a doula. So yeah. It's of course you need to be paid. So
but that's what I find in sex work though too, is that like it's not super common for people, for anonymous one-time people, right, to ask you, can you see me for free? Like, okay, there's some stupid dude on the internet who will do that. But for the most part, those aren't people who are actually booking you.
Yes.
But it's like they will come and pay your rate. But then the people, it's when they think that you care, that's when things get confusing and they're like, oh, well, this is now different. And you're like, no, it's
the same.
It's not.
It's the same. Do they want like a rubber sex doll of me to show up, or for me to hit them? Well, some people do. For me to like show up pissed off and like no energy. It's like, no.
Yeah.
So of course I care. I wanted, I want you to have a nice time. I really appreciate everything. But yeah, I still need to get paid. It's very, very strange. Very, very strange, as you were saying.
Yeah. So you found that some of the boundaries that you learned to set, like within sex work, are helping you in your art as well?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And I learned about my worth as a person, a real giving, generous, caring person, just for being me, and inherent qualities that do deserve to be monetized. And I learned that in sex work. And I bring that through to my art, because my art is inherent to me. And I would never go to an artist and be like, can I have that painting for free? Or that book that you wrote for free? I'm like, can I access your holding space or your course for free because you can write so much? It's like, absolutely not. And I've had it as well, like contacting organizations and offering to like hold space or whatever, and them coming back to me saying no, because we don't believe that we should charge people attending, because we don't believe survivors of trauma should have to pay for their for this. And there's so much in that, and I feel like I would love for resources to be more accessible for of trauma. I do live in a country where we do have a lot of resources available, but I think that that's so loaded, because I can never say that I could help survivors of trauma. I'm a survivor of trauma, but I could never say that. And I think this giving freely also invites a lot of responsibility on a space holder, on an artist, on anybody, including like a doula. And then what if, as a sex worker, you were to start seeing that client? How much more would they want? And when would enough be enough? And it's like, they're so just, again, it's a question of boundaries, and, you know, having them broken down is like, what's left? What is left of the person giving this care? Because expectation can just be a bulldozer, really.
Yeah. So what did writing the book on self-care, like, did it help you develop your own like sort of self-care practice?
Oh, absolutely. And I do go back to it, and I do work through it myself, because I need to practice what I'm sharing. And because a lot of it is so basic. Is like, in the first chapter, one of the first questions is, what do I need for myself today? And what do I want for my day to day? And so this is survival mode, just go on autopilot. And it's to do with earning that money. It is to do with keeping my house. It is to do with going to the gym. But it's like, but what do I need in my body? And I feel like, as a sex worker, I gave so much of my body and to others, which is like, you know, that's such an obvious thing to say, but there was so much in that, and I would mute my needs quite a lot to service my clients, and I still do. And I can very often forget that this work is so emotional, even though
it is very emotional.
And having to contain my own emotions is exhausting. And that very much like wide out, Tipp-X's out my own needs as a person. And so in the context of a sex worker, for me to really address that, because it can be addressed as like me as a BIPOC person, me as an artist, me as blah, blah, as a woman, as a whatever. But as a sex worker, I didn't get that. I didn't. I didn't, unfortunately, see Lola's books. So I wish I did. But yeah.
But it seems so important, because it feels like we do have, like, I don't think it's that obvious. Like, when you said, you know, it seems obvious when you say like you give so much of your body, and sure, on some level, but I don't think that unless you actually do that, and you do that over a long period of time, I don't think it's super obvious, like, what that does to you. And I'm not saying this in any sort of like anti-sex work way. I'm just saying it like takes a toll, in the sense that like it's a lot of our energy. We're letting people into our space, either like of our bodies or of our emotional energy, all sorts of things that are it's intense work. It's intimacy work, and intimacy work is intense work. And I feel like sometimes, and this is something that I've had to, this may be some sort of like internalized like whorephobia on my part that I have to kind of deconstruct. But sometimes I think that I want to be like, oh no, it's just like a job. Like, it's fine. And I mean, and it is fine, but like, what does that mean? I think that sometimes I need to step back and be like, no, it actually is a lot. It's a lot to go through. It's a lot of people project a lot of their stuff onto us. And I'm sure you find that in like the taboo that work that you do. You know, I think there's or blame us for things, or bring a lot of their issues to us and dump them on us in ways that we have to like try to guard ourselves against. And I think that we have to learn how to take care of ourselves through all of that.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I feel like it's intimacy work, but we can be seen as orifices, but then it can't just be that. It's like we provide touch, we provide laughter, we provide smiles, we provide a welcome space, a safe space. And in my cam work, I explore a lot of fantasy, and I really need to, I'm very performative in that. Dom, I'm a sub, but really, no, daddy, I don't want you to like spunk in my face and, 10 of you to come and like fill me up kind of thing. But that's the kind of language I use. And then my shift is over and I go up on my day, and it's like, well, where am I in all of this? Who's hearing me? And I understand the value of the work that I provide, but I don't feel like I could compare it. I could say, I was thinking of using the example of therapists have supervision. In no way as a sex worker do I feel like, I hold space for therapy, but there is a release that from my client or my viewer, that they release something onto me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And there's nowhere for me to go with that and how I feel about that. So
I've often thought about that supervision for therapists. I've thought about this too, because there's been moments where I've thought, man, I wish that I had like a supervisor who I could say, this thing happened. Did I handle this well? Was there other ways I could have done this? And in some regard, we do this with our friends, but and the other sex workers that we're like close with, but something that's more structured, I think there's been moments where I've longed for something like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like, that would be amazing if we had some kind of structure, like some kind of organization, that was like, you take on a lot and you do a lot and you give a lot. And what about my projections? What about my transference? What about my feelings? What about my fatigue, my burnout?
Yeah.
To say, Savannah, you sound like you're burning out. What do you think about taking a week off? Nobody did that to me. And I went to work when I was 20, and I had no one to hold space for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It just, I know there's so many, I know sex work is so complex, and we don't want, regulation. There's so much about that just doesn't work in the same way that it works with like therapy. But like, there would just be, there are just moments that I'm like, I wish I could bounce this off.
Yeah.
These experiences off somebody who is just there to absorb them for me. And I do some of that with my therapist, but like, and she's very like open and knows what I do, and that's very nice. But I do think that that there is a lot, and this is why I appreciate the work that you're doing with like the self-care stuff, that there is a lot that we need to be able to step back and figure out what we need. And that's why I really like this first question that you have at the beginning of like, what is it that I need?
Yeah.
Because nobody asks us that.
Yeah.
I mean, clients ask us that, but in a very selfish way.
Yeah.
They want you to need exactly what they want to give you.
Yeah, to like perpetuate their fantasy of me, it's like,
but to really like, because the answer to that can't be like, I want to sit in fuzzy socks and watch a movie. Like, that's not an acceptable answer.
No,
so.
No, I want to take my makeup off. I want to take a nap,
Yeah. So I think that, it is good to think about like what to step back and say, what is it that I want? What is it that I need in these interactions, and also just for myself?
Yeah, in the moment. And then also that branches out into, what do I need from my money that I've worked so hard for? Because I don't get validation from my money. I'm told it's dirty, and no, this bank, this whatever fund doesn't want it because it's dirty. It's like, hang on, my money is your money. It's the same money that goes around. So what's calm down. And I think starting with what do I need for my day to day? What rest do I need? When can I do that in my day? And then kind of thinking like bigger picture, what do I want this money to do? What do I want? When can I start a pension? When, what can I invest in? What kind of thing? Because nobody does that for us. Nobody does that. Everybody wants our work, but nobody will help support us in our lives.
Right.
And that's what I felt. That's what I felt a lot of in the pandemic.
Yeah. Especially when like other small businesses got like small business loans and helps, and we were just on our own. Oh, sorry.
No.
Yeah. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. I end every episode with 3 questions. So the first one is, what are you reading?
What am I reading? I have just finished, I'm very late to the party with both of these books, 3 Women by Lisa Taddeo. And it was epic. She's one of my new favorite authors. It's basically about, it's nonfiction. She followed 3 women, random women, for 8 years, I think. And she basically gets to know them through their sex lives and their experience of sex. And
oh, wow. I haven't read this.
It's so good. So good. And she speaks so compassionately. And I feel like towards the end of it, I knew these 3 women. I knew them. And that inspired me. Like, I wondered if I did that with like 3 sex workers. That would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
And so that was amazing. And I've just moved on to Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. She is a Black British writer, and she is writing about her experience of navigating sex in an interracial relationship. And I feel like her experience of sexual trauma, and that is amazing. I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah. Neat. I like those recommendations. Thank you. What are you listening to?
I am listening to a million podcasts, and I listen to a lot of Esther Perel because she talks about
I like her a lot.
Sex and money, but sex and work, but separately. But I did hear an episode that one of her first episodes was with 2 strippers, which was amazing.
Oh,
yeah, amazing.
I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, it's a very, very old episode, and she did it very early on. So kudos to you, Esther. I know you're listening. And
I really like her work. I like her show, Where Should We Begin?
Yeah.
Or Where Can We Begin? Yeah, it's a great show.
So interesting.
Yeah. And what are you excited about?
So I'm so excited about my Substack. I have recently started holding these spaces. Initially, I started them for sex workers, and it's called Visioning Your Creative Future. And it's me describing my creative process. And I wanted to find a way of bringing people into my creative process through openly discussing sex work, intimacy, things like grief, my feelings of sex, belonging, and kind of like inviting them to have their own creative response to it. So I've just started doing that, and I'm really, really enjoying it. It's very, very abstract, but I'm really excited about it. I just love making them. So yes.
Yeah, that's neat. And where can people find you and your art?
I have 3 Instagram pages, Anna and the Elephant, My Space to Breathe, and Self Care for Sex Workers. And I'm also on Imperfectly You platform, but that is just for verified sex workers. So
okay.
Yes. Yeah. Full space on there. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jessie, for having me. I love talking to you. Thank you. And the work you do is awesome.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of When We're Not Hustling. I'm your host, Jessie Sage. You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at sapiotextual, or visit my website at jessiesage.com. You can follow the show on all socials at Not Hustling Pod and visit our website for more information at nothustling.com. The show was produced by Emily Foster. The music is by Benjamin J. Benametti. Signing off. Have a great week.